Welcome to another MAP Hotels Videocast. Today we have Felicity Black-Roberts from Hyatt with us. She is VP for Acquisitions and Development. Welcome, Felicity, and thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome, and thanks for asking me to join you.
Perfect. Let's start on a very positive note. Can you already report on any global Hyatt property or maybe destination where you see that recovery is actually already in full swing?
Yeah, so we're getting great stories coming out of China and America already in terms of very much more activity, both in the leisure and the business travel sectors, which is great to hear. Europe's a bit more difficult because of the difference in lockdown restrictions between the different countries. And certainly we're seeing a lot of demand for leisure destinations. And we will see that coming through the summer. But we really now need for Europe, for the leisure business, for the summer, we really need to see some of the governments making decisions about who's going to be allowed to travel and where.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. What are other general learnings and trends that you have been observing, and what's this actually how to take out from this crisis?
I think from where I sit in the development side of the business for Hyatt, one of the biggest things that has really shocked me is people's commitment to the sector. Mm-hmm. And I think at the beginning of all of this, where were we, 14, 15 months ago now? Everybody was like really very uncertain as to what the future might look like, and really it was very difficult to see what it might bring for us all. But what it has brought is an overwhelming sense of confidence in the long-term ability of the sector, both to weather this storm and also to have appeal moving forward. So I'm really excited about that, and we're seeing a lot of interest in Hyatt and just branding generally coming out of the pandemic.
Understand. From a property perspective, have you changed your requirements in terms of space allocation, outside space, external areas, etc.?
No, do you know, that's a really tough question, and it's something we're being asked quite a lot, and especially for those owners who are currently in the planning process for properties which are going to kind of open in 2 or 3 years' time. And it's difficult to see how some of these short-term requirements will translate into longer-term trends. I think the one thing we're saying, and I've written 2 or 3 articles about it now, is just keep space flexible. You know, so we know that lobbies have been changing and the use of lobbies has been changing over time. We know that we're going to see a trend in working from home more, or people having a third space where they go to work, or indeed mixing business and vacation for longer vacations in the summer. So I think that means that we really need to create flexible spaces. And maybe a few more spaces where people can make that combined working and leisure type trip work for them.
Understand. Coming back to the owner and operator relationship, have there been any changes also in terms of the agreement structures? Have you noted something?
Well, the world is certainly getting more competitive, that is for sure. I think I'm spending a lot more time with owners really getting underneath the numbers. Everybody wants to really understand how powerful a brand's distribution system are, and how much ultimately that's going to cost them and what it's going to bring to their business. And I think that's a good thing. And we've got a whole new focus through a new commercial services group where we're bringing together a lot of expertise on digital marketing, sales and PR. And so from that perspective, that's been a great way for us to be able to communicate how we're changing to really make sure this drive to digital and delivering for our owners happens.
Coming back to the guest side, what are your views on the travel behaviors post-corona? Will there be any changes, of course, in terms of needs, demands following the pandemic?
Well, I think this really splits into immediate and medium term. And even just talking to my own friendship group, there is an immediate demand for leisure. I mean, I think everybody is just desperate to go somewhere. that's different, and where they're not probably not self-catering for themselves. So for this summer, as long as people can travel, we're going to see a huge demand for leisure travel. I think business travel is going to be a little bit slower to pick up. And what we're seeing from our sales teams and what we're hearing from our sales teams, there's a couple of interesting trends. The first is that the big global accounts really aren't starting to indicate that they're going to start to release travel budget and people moving around. But the smaller companies and the medium-sized companies that we deal with are indicating that they're going to get traveling, or they're even starting to travel now, or going to start to travel sooner. And I think as soon as those medium and small companies start moving into some of the spaces where their bigger competitors aren't, because they don't have a travel budget, then I think then the whole system starts to move again. So I think that's something that we're starting to see. We're also seeing a lot of inquiries for meetings, events, incentives, team get-togethers. And people are planning those in quite a lot of detail, with one big exception: the date. So we know that people want to get their teams back together again. I haven't seen in the flesh anybody from Hyatt for nearly 12 months now. So, people need to come together, and we need to come together, human beings, to do business, just as as an industry. Hospitality is about people being together. So I'm optimistic about the future, but I do think it will take a little while. And I think some of the destinations that are particularly reliant upon long haul arrivals, some of the London hotels, where up to 70% of demand comes from the Middle East or America, they're going to take longer to pick up than some of the markets, for instance, in Germany, which are heavily reliant on domestic travel anyway.
Yeah, correct. So picking up on those different topics and themes in terms of leisure, miles, but also business, which Hyatt brands do you expect to adapt actually the fastest to such new demands, patterns and trends? And where do you, for example, see extended stay concepts?
Yeah, Hyatt's got extended stay, not a huge portfolio in Europe, but the ones that we have got have done well during the pandemic. But again, often down to micro locations. So for instance, one of our Hyatt houses is located next to a university that has a large research facility. And so we had students who couldn't get back home, for example, so they were staying there long term. So during the pandemic, we've seen different types of demand, really very specific for micro locations. I think coming out of the pandemic, I would say going back to where I started, around space and facilities. Flexibility is going to be the big driver here. And I think as long as hotels are flexible in their approach across a whole range of their business fronts, then that is going to be the key to success and coming out of the pandemic and attracting business. But good hotels will attract business, and that's what we aim to do when we create a hotel, is make it attractive for our guests.
Indeed. So what are your future plans then? What is your expansion strategy globally, but also in specific to the DACH region?
So where I basically am responsible for Hyatt's expansion of brands in Western Europe. We haven't really changed our strategy because of the pandemic. We had a very clear strategy because we were underrepresented. We really wanted to focus on the key cities where we didn't have representation, and then start to look at some of the secondary cities or secondary locations in the key cities. I think we're still very much wedded to that strategy and to delivering on it. Whenever we go into a new location, it's very much informed by our sales teams in terms of where they know they've got demand for guests of Hyatt. So I don't think the pandemic changes that. I think what it probably will do is a couple of things. I think it will bring more resorts into Hyatt's portfolio. And I think resorts in Europe, particularly, we were very light in terms of the number of properties that we'd got. And we are seeing quite a few conversion opportunities as a result of the pandemic. And we would really, really like to expand our resort business. And I think we see an opportunity for us to do that. I think then the other part in this is we are seeing quite a lot of people really interested in soft brands. So independent hoteliers already have a very strong brand, but they want the power of the distribution behind them. So I do think our Unbound collection, Destination by Hyatt and JDV by Hyatt will really be able to respond to those people's needs, those individual hoteliers who see an opportunity to work with a brand to really hold their hand as they come out of the pandemic. So that would be the two kind of changes, but otherwise we're steadfast. In terms of DACH region, you know, we have a good network in Germany. We want to build on that. We know that our German guests enjoy our hotels. We get great feedback. So now we want to expand our presence into some of the cities where we're not currently represented, and then look at some of the bigger cities and then have a multi-brand representation there. So I think that's our idea for the DACH region.
Sounds fantastic. So finally, maybe that will also to some extent answer my next question then in terms of the resort market, the DACH region. Can you maybe give us one example or one hint of a hotel or resort maybe that should be definitely on our bucket list following the pandemic?
So the hotel that's going to get my top pick for this is the Hyatt Regency in Malta. The Hyatt Regency in Malta was a project which we signed a couple of years ago now. Very inspirational owners, built the tower from ground up in a very short period of time, opened mid-pandemic. And all the way through the construction process, they've been sending me photographs and videos, and I've been following them on Instagram. And honestly, I cannot wait to see that hotel because we've been involved with it from day one, and it's opened and nobody from Hyatt's been able to go there. So as soon as I can get on a plane to Malta, that's where I'm going. And I'm going to lie on that deck and soak up some sun.
Amazing. Well, on that fantastic note, I think we all are very keen to visit the property in Malta. So thank you very much, Felicity, for those amazing insights and also your insights into the future plans of Hyatt. I think you have some great strategies and plans ahead of you. And thank you also finally for the recommendation of the property in Malta. I think we're all very eager to look it up and to hopefully book our travel very soon. So thank you very much for your time, Felicity, and speak soon.
Take care. Thank you.
Thank you.